Today's the day. After 2 stressful months of preparation, the day is actually here. This vlog is really a chaotic video dump of our long travel day moving to London with our dog. Our first flight was in the afternoon, so that morning we took Odie on a nice long walk to try to get some of his energy out. He also got 2 fat anxiety pills. Shout out to our vet. I wish I had some for me. I had a couple of things left to pack, like my toiletries and Odie's things. My backpack was 90% dog stuff, 10% my stuff. Then we loaded up the car with our bags. We ended up taking 4 big suitcases, 1 carry-on bag, and 2 backpacks with us.
Continue on Florida 202 West for 7 miles.
I kept Odie strapped to my chest in his little baby sling as we went through security, which was totally fine. They let me walk through the metal detector just holding him. He was really nervous, just shaking like a leaf, poor guy. Then we headed straight to the pet relief area. This airport actually had a decently sized indoor turf area complete with fire hydrant, which Odie did eventually pee on. There was another black and tan dachshund inside actually, but in true dachshund form, she stayed with her human and had no interest in hanging out with us. By this point, our plane to Atlanta was scheduled to start boarding in the next 15 minutes or so we made our way to the gate. Odie confirmed the aircraft was adequately within compliance and demonstrated proper carry-on baggage dimension regulation. Now this was the moment I was super nervous about, actually zipping him up in his carrier and getting him onto the plane. I wasn't sure how he would react, if he would freak out, if he'd get us kicked off the plane, but at this point I think his anxiety meds were starting to hit real good and he did not put up a fight. And although the dimension of his carrier was technically within the size allowed for pets, there was no way that shit was fitting under the seat. Maybe because it was a short domestic flight so the legroom was tight, but yeah, that was not happening. I practically begged the flight attendant to let me hold him in my lap instead. She was like, he really needs to be under the seat, but I guess I didn't see anything, if you know what I mean. So thank God for her, I was able to hold baby man in my lap and unzip the sides of his carrier enough where I could slip my arms in and let him peek his little snoot out. He did get stressed out during takeoff and when we hit some turbulence, unfortunately, but overall, he did a really great job for his first time flying. This flight was pretty short too, it was only an hour to Atlanta, and once there, I let him out to walk around and we found the nearest pet area for him to go potty again. This one was a lot smaller though and smelled pretty piss awful. Oh my God, Jesus, take the wheel. Odie was like, to hell with this place and refused to go potty. So we made our way to the international terminal instead and found a different pet area over there. Unfortunately, he didn't have a great reaction to this one either. He really said, "This is the porta potty of restrooms, don't let it touch my paws."
Are you sure this water's sanitary?
I forced him in there like 5 separate times and he would not go.
But what about bacteria?
We had every intention of using this 2-hour layover to grab a bite to eat, get our bearings, but the time went by so fast and I ended up just pacing up and down the terminal with Odie, begging him to go to the bathroom before our 8.5-hour flight to Paris. Did he ever go? No, he did not, but it was too late. It was time to board, time to get back in the bag. I did ask the flight attendant on this flight as well if I could just keep him in my lap instead of under the seat. And no, she was immune to our puppy eyes and not playing around. The bag did technically fit under the seat, but it took much force and invasive measures to shove it down there. We did have some rain, but we ended up taking off on time without a hitch and we were on our way to Paris. We got dinner service a little while later and watched some movies before they eventually turned off all the lights to allow people to sleep. Once that happened, I did lift Odie's carrier back onto my lap and unzip it enough where I could hold him and he could stretch out better for the rest of the flight. Mind you, I was more concerned for my dog's comfort than my own because my lower back was screaming for 8 hours in this position. Me and Patrick did take turns doing this, by the way, but it really didn't matter. Neither of us were sleeping a wink back there in the cattle corral mile of economy air travel. 8 hours later, and it was morning. Odie actually did great, and the stewardess even called him a very good boy. There were no pet relief areas in the Paris terminal, so we beelined it to the ladies' bathroom, and I took him inside one of those family changing stalls and pleaded with him to tinkle on a paper towel on the floor. Did it work? Absolutely not, but we made our way through French customs where the employee immediately knew I was American before I even opened my mouth. He read me to absolute filth, which was mildly embarrassing. He also didn't even acknowledge the tiny dog traveling with me, did not ask for any paperwork that I spent hundreds of dollars and weeks coordinating. So, c'est la vie, say the French. Then we were picked up by a pet taxi service that we had hired ahead of time to drive us from Paris to London. We pulled off at a gas station just outside the airport, and Odie finally saw real grass and took the longest pee of his life. If you're unfamiliar with my previous moving vlogs, the UK actually doesn't allow pets to fly into the country inside the airplane cabin, so that is why we flew into Paris instead of London, so we could keep our puppy with us. But now, we had about a 7.5-hour journey by car ahead of us to get to London. Also, I saw more wind turbines on a highway in France than I ever have in my whole life, which I thought was neat. We pulled off again at the French border. There were 3 different custom areas that we had to pass through to get into the UK. The first was pet customs, where they did in fact check all of Odie's vaccine, paperwork, health certificates, and scan his microchip. This is the patch of grass where Odie took his first poop in Europe. I'm questioning why I thought I should commemorate that, but there it is. Then we went through French customs, where they stamped our passports, and finally UK border customs, where they checked our visas, asked some questions, and stamped our passports again. Then it was time to cross through the English Channel Tunnel, aka the Channel. This train is not your standard seated passenger train. You actually load your vehicle onto these train cars. So you're inside your car, which is inside the train, which is moving very fast through an underwater tunnel that connects northern France with southern England. As soon as we entered England and drove out of the train car, it was dark and gray and rainy. Welcome to England. Our driver was extremely chatty the entire drive, and my introvert social battery was done. It had been ejected from my body many hours before. But we finally made it to our hotel that evening, deliriously tired, hadn't slept in 2 days. As soon as we walked in, Odie hopped up on the sofa and passed out, dead to the world. Patrick and I ordered some Korean takeout food, which was very tasty. I took the hottest shower I could physically tolerate, and then collapsed in bed, where we stayed for longer than I'd like to admit. We did it.